This is how we're making virtual melodies for Blade. The preset's called Bell Pad, and it's 2 instruments like layered together. Every single time you watch a video, you'll notice like a lot of my chord structures are like very similar. The main reason for that is because it works. Once you have something that works, you don't really need to be changing that around, and I recommend that you don't. In music, if you're trying to create something that sounds a specific way, there's a specific formula and a way to go about that, and I can guarantee that's why you're struggling. If you are struggling, it's just like basically finding that recipe and then just replicating that and creating as many versions of that as you can. And that's why a lot of the time I go with the same chord progressions, because they're chord progressions that work for the genres that I'm using. A lot of the time in music, it's just about working smarter and not harder. For years and years, I was working a lot harder than I was smarter, until I realized that all you have to do is just recycle the same chords and you get the right results. That being said, I definitely make bad melodies. I definitely make musical ideas that aren't great. A lot of the time, they're like 70% there. I'd say like 1 in 10 is a really great idea. And that's basically how I've learned how to work. And it's just having a great output and not changing what works. So we're in A major. It goes 1, 6, and then 3. The 3 is like dropped down an octave. So it's kind of like this descending chord structure. We've basically got the 7th layered on top. It's a really good place to start if you're creating kind of emotional sounding melodies. 7th is a great note to use. Then we've got the 5th as well. 5th just works with any kind of melodic ideas. It's really just like the magical note that holds the most tension. Then I just like layered some basic notes over the top. So that one's the 2nd. Then we're going back down to the 7th. And then I'm using the 5th again. So this is what I'm talking about. This is what works. Using the 7th, using the 5th, and then there's just some little notes in between. The whole melody is based around some really similar notes that I use all of the time. I just change them around in every melody that I use, or I just find a new rhythm to use them with. Now that I've focused on building a really strong foundation, I'd say the melody is pretty much like 70% there. So all I really have to do now, add some like accent notes in sort of like the pockets where I feel there could be some other elements. And this is just kind of up to your taste and how you feel. This is really just kind of like the exciting bit about making music. You can kind of just freestyle over the top of it and add your own ideas. This preset is called Celestial. It's like a bell. And notice how simple these notes are. So they're just these white ones, obviously. Then I grabbed this preset called Sonic Split. So when I'm onto my 3rd element, generally I'm just like focusing on call and response. If we look at these 2 elements together, notice how they're just sort of like occupying different spaces in the melody. I just rinse and repeat for the 2nd section. All that you're doing is just like taking out an element and then just replacing it with something new and coming up with another simple idea. This is just a sine wave with a little bit of glide on it. I've also picked a frequency range where none of the other notes are occupying. Another really great tip that makes mixing really easy as well is picking elements that don't clash and putting them in separate frequency ranges, because then when it comes down to mixing, there's no clutter. You don't have to like cut out frequencies. They're all pretty much mixed. All you just have to do is level them. And this is what I'm talking about with working smarter and not harder. You don't have to like spend an extra 20 minutes notching out frequencies and mixing and stuff like that. You can just get onto a new melodic idea and come up with more and better ideas. Now I've just moved on to a new section, basically just recorded the entire melody like I usually do, and then dropped the audio into a sampler and sliced it up. And then I just play on my keyboard to come up with new samples to play over the top. I just make a couple of sections doing this and then pick from the best. This is the 2nd. So that's it, and here's the melody.